Hi, we have about an hour here together, and we'll have a conversation around what is it to craft and fulfill on your commitments at this time of your life, and what are we doing to do that in this very historical moment that we're all in. And let's first begin by let's connecting with ourselves by bringing our attention to the life of our body. So we start to settle back in ourselves. Maybe we let go of anything from or any plans we have about this call or about the time ahead of us, and just being right here in this present moment. And we can do that by, let's begin by all of us taking a very 3 deep breaths. Let's breathe in through our nose, exhale through the mouth, and each time settling deeper in. Breathing in and exhaling out and settling into ourself. And one more time. And just get in touch with our sit bones. So we begin to drop our weight, feel our weight in the chair through our sit bones. You can feel our feet on the floor. Spread your toes. And let's just come into our vertical line too, this human line, where we're this animal that can be aligned vertically. So the head over the shoulders, shoulders over the hips, hips over the legs, knees, feet. And we're both straightening here and we're settling. Breath is settling, relaxing our jaws, chins. Just taking this moment to drop in, get connected, get open to possibilities, staying open. And then let's drop our attention to our belly center. If it helps you, you can put your thumb in your belly, your hand, your palm, that lower abdomen, about 3 inches below. Feeling that sensation actually can help you drop more easily. So we're coming out of our heads, feeling our belly center. This is the center of action, center of intuition, center of energy, will. Many traditions call this hara or tantian, tanden, koth. This is where the key or the animating life or principles becomes into our body, where we can then distribute it. Now let's come up to our heart center. And if it helps, go ahead and touch your heart center, your lungs, your heart, these big pumps. Compassion, wisdom, love, harmony, benevolence, goodwill. Now, just for a moment, touch your eye center right between your eyebrows where they meet in the middle. So it's not coming up here to analyze or think about, but just to be here towards the notion of a long horizon of time. That we can hold this much space, a big space of infinity maybe. Clear thinking, clear perception. The mystery, the divine, the sacred. So drop your hand if it's still there. And now, however you think of it, like pushing a button, flipping a switch, turning a dial, opening a door, open those three centers for yourself. So at the belly center, we're organizing around skillful action, minimum effort, maximum output. At the heart center, we're organizing around a grounded compassion, love, compassion, harmony, opening. And our eye center, a pragmatic wisdom. So our capacity here to be skillful in the way we act and behave, our capacity for a loving, compassionate heart, our capacity for a very pragmatic, practical wisdom. Now let's take our hands, open up the hands like this so the fingers are extended. Take that by your side and extend down. Extend down, think you're extending down towards the earth from the centered position. And what we're doing as we extend down, straight down, is that we're giving thanks to the earth. We're giving thanks to Mother Earth for everything we have ever eaten or drank, for the beauty, for the grasses, the leaves, the stones, the four-leggeds, the feathered ones. And now let's extend straight up. As we extend straight up, we're giving thanks to the heavens, warmth, light, mystery, full moons, our vast, vast neighborhood of mystery. And now let's extend out, straight out. So your palms are straight out. Relax your shoulders. And let's think of this posture as a prayer of gratefulness for people. And think of the people you're grateful for, or the peoples. And let's really stretch. We'll stretch towards our worst friend and our best enemy. Left hand on your heart center, right hand on your belly center. And connect with your purpose. In other words, what is your earth walk about for you? And if you're struggling with that right now, you can just say, the purpose is to open to my purpose. Otherwise, say that to yourself, what your purpose is. And dropping your hands. So taking this about 7 minutes to do this, settling in, getting present, open, and connected, being in a mood of gratefulness for so much. And just notice what shifted, if anything, in your mood, how you're being by individually and collectively coming together here. Okay, before I begin about what I'm going to say here, I want to say those things in tremendous respect to those people who are on the front lines, the first responders, the law enforcement, the fire departments, the paramedics, those in healthcare and all levels of healthcare. And I want to say this in respect to those that have contacted the virus and are in really very acute care and in crisis, to those that just have it and are managing it, and those around you that are helping you manage it. And I want to recognize those that are really put in financial dire because of this and are really struggling maybe from month by month if they're able to keep food on the plate. Now, saying those things, I want to say that we as a species are out of balance, are seriously out of balance. We as a species are off center. And I would say also claim that we are, as a species have a moment to look at the situation that we're at hand right now and to begin to not think of a back or a return. In other words, not going, wait till we get back to normal, or let's wait till we get back to return to where we were. Let's see if we can just hold that to the side for a moment. It's a very natural impulse for the human, for any living organism to go back to homeostasis, to go back to status quo. But we're really in a moment which we are looking at a global pandemic, as you know, that actually in many ways unifies and can unify our thinking. I get across my desk every day numerous reports from all over the world, from friends from all over the world, that will speak about things that like there's no haze in the sky anymore where I am. That there's these wild animals are starting to come out of their corridors and come onto the streets. Not like wild animals attacking us, but part of our family of life together. That they see that inside of their stopping, that they're spending more time with their loved ones and their families, either in person or through Zoom or calls, and finding out things about each other that they didn't know, and with a greater intimacy and a greater love. So inside of this notion that as a species we are being reflected to and being revealed to us that we're out, is that we also have this opportunity to make a declaration about what kind of future we want to live into. You know, the title of this is Making Commitments. And then how do we sustain and craft those commitments and actually come to life? And often what happens in a situation like this, when there's multiple concerns, all the way from life and death, to eating, to being lonely, to not having contact, to being ill, is that we'll often fall into the generalized mood of some kind of panic that we have. Like, for example, where I am here up at the ranch, where we do our courses, where we teach Aikido, where we have meditation retreats, it's very calm. And I can sense and feel just outside in the perimeters this hum of panic, this hum of concern. While people are getting together more, which is true, I go into the streets and I see that people have that gripping about them. And when we're in that state and we think about our commitments, how do I want to declare a future of one kind or another, is that what we'll often precipitate into is kind of the crossing of the T's and dotting the I's. Clearly, these things we need to do. We need to keep things running. We need to keep the children fed. We need to keep our health. But often, if that's done from the point of just gripping, we forget this larger purpose. That why do we say that we as individuals are on this earth walk right now? What is our purpose? What is that North Star? I'll say one of the practices that I do daily for myself, I'll get up on the best of days and I sit. Then I get my Jo, a Japanese staff, and I do this kata of 31 moves. At the end of them, I do a strike, and I do a strike of a commitment to what in the near horizon of time am I committed to? We have multiple of those concerns. One of my concerns that I commit towards is that I'm writing another book. My working title is Embodying the Mystery, Notes from a Somatic Pilgrim. The other one that I line up to is a more universal one in this extension forward that at this moment I hold for my entire lifetime, which is living in a greater will. I might say in the will of the universe, or the great animating principle, the ki, the chi, the life energy that moves through us. How do I live in that? Listen to that greater flow of life and move out of the personality and the character of Richard and listen to that which is beyond the self and allow that to inform me. So in terms of crafting our commitments, let's say that while we have multiple ones, if we include them in a daily practice, and that daily practice might be stopping every hour and just remembering, or stopping in the morning, afternoon, and evening, sitting down and centering and remembering. And remembering so we feel that fully in our tissues. And what I mean by that is I'm making the distinction between we have an idea about something, we have a concept about something, we might even have a vision about something, but it doesn't actually live in our own livingness. It doesn't live in the way that in our footfall, in our breath patterns, how we line up to our loved ones, how we line up to the beauty in the world, how we line up to the horror in the world, how we line up to each activity that we're doing. There's a great line from the Persian mystic and poet Jalaluddin Rumi in his text, the Mathnavi, where he says in his language, Farsi, Das Badar del Bayar, Das Badar del Bayar. And what that means is while your hands are in your work, that whatever you're doing, your heart is with the divine or with your friend. In this way, we could say that in the activities that you're doing, can you also hold the greater narrative of your purpose? So these are the ways that we want to think, that we just don't think of crafting a commitment or crafting a declaration about the future, is that we don't think of it as a mission statement that we tack on the wall, or it comes on our screen all the time and we just cognitively remember it. But we actually start to live it through our blood flow, through the correspondence of the organs, through our tissue metabolism, through our breath patterns, and again, how we relate to all these other living things. How do we make this something that we are living and not just announcing or proclaiming? But if somebody says, how are you doing? You could say, let me tell you about this commitment that I'm lining up to and how I think that I'm doing in it and what that means for me in this lifetime, what that means for me in this particular historical moment of the CV19. What does this mean in terms of my loved ones and those that I care about, or those that are in distress? Those don't have this capacity to actually help themselves at this moment. And another way to look at it is reminding you all of the stonecutter's parable. And the stonecutter's parable, if you remember, there's these three stonecutters, and they're all sitting on this stool, and they have a cold chisel and a mallet, and they're pounding on a big piece of granite. So the casual observer looks at them and goes, they're all doing the same thing. And you go to the first one and you say, what are you doing? And she says, I'm cutting on a piece of granite. That's our activity. We're talking, we're standing, we're moving, we're taking care of our children, we're on our machines in front of us, communicating with other people, the activity. The next one is you go to him and you say, what are you doing? And he says, I'm building a door. And the door is in order to, I'm doing this thing, so that I'll be able to. I'm in this activity, but I also have a narrative that I'm doing that in order to be more loving, be more trusting, be more helpful, take better care of myself, take better care of my loved ones. And then you go to the third one and you say to her, what are you doing? And she says, I'm building a cathedral. That includes the activity. That includes in order to, but really the building of the cathedral is, what is your forsake of what? What is your largest narrative that while you're at work, you're focused on building the right doorway, the right window, the right relationship. The larger picture is your forsake of what? And inside of that forsake of what, we hold kind of the highest good, the sense of the purpose that we have for ourselves being on this very short pilgrimage on this planet with all these other living things in this huge, huge mystery, in this huge time of crisis, and in this huge time of opportunity. When we begin to wrestle with this notion, or it may just even come to us automatically and we're going, oh, it's this, is that, and let's not be afraid to really wrestle with it either. In other words, what is it that you don't want to take to your final moments, your final days? What is it you really want to take care of? What is it what place do you want to fulfill on before you've taken it to your grave? We can move and we can struggle with that piece. Is that inside of that, if somebody says, why is that important to you? You would have that narrative at hand. So really the question I'm asking you now, and you can ask yourself is, why is that important to you? And if you fulfill on this declaration, what will be different? What will be unusual and what will be different? So it's not just something that we may fulfill on in our own imagination, but it's actually something more observable. So if I say, I want to be in the greater will, or the more universal will, what is really at focus for me? If somebody said, for the sake of what? And I would say, I would be more loving then. I would be more respectful, and I would be kinder. That's what that would start to take care of. And it would take care of a very deep longing that I have, that I've had as long as I can remember, about who am I? Who am I, and why am I here at this particular time? So that if somebody said to me, oh, you know what, you're kinder, or you're more loving, or you seem, I feel more respected by you, or more compassionate by you, then I would go, oh, whatever I'm doing in this practice, I'm fulfilling on it. Now, how do we do this? First of all, if you think of whatever practice that you have, some of you may have a meditation practice, maybe you have a physical fitness practice of walking or running, maybe you have a Qigong practice or a Tai Chi practice, that you do a set form and different kinds of movements, is that what you do at the beginning of that practice, you speak to yourself that commitment. You remind yourself that I'm doing this practice in order to. So it just doesn't precipitate into a routine that becomes habituated, that really lacks the intent that you can bring forward to your earth walk. And then when you complete the practice, you can say to yourself, I just did this practice for the sake of, and remind yourself again why you did this practice. You might think that if you see somebody, you're talking to somebody, and they said, how are you doing? And we have a natural etiquette or courtesy in the West of saying, I'm fine, how are you? Which doesn't extend or make anything move along in the conversation. What about if you said, I want to share with you this commitment that I have, this commitment that I'm working with? And this commitment is a declaration of ABC, 1, 2, 3. And this is how I do it. This is how I'm working with it. And then you could ask them, how are you? And see if that can deepen the conversation, keep you in your conversation of purpose and meaning and how you're moving through life and what that is. The other thing is that we may be in a time in our life where you recognize it's not the time to call in something. It's not the time to declare something. You know, as a speech act, which means that language is also action. It's just not passing information. So as a speech act, that we want it to appear that I'll show up, life will show up, my actions will show up, my behaviors will show up, my task will show up in some kind of particular way. You may be in a time where you're saying, I'm at a time in my life where what I want to do is, and I want to open up to what's next. What does universal energy, what does Allah, what does God, whatever you call that thing beyond the self, has something for me, and I'm moving myself into a state in which I'll be a very deep listener and I'll be a very deep responder to when I hear that. That too is a commitment. That too is a declaration. When you think of a declaration as a speech act, it means it's a commitment to a future possibility. And we know that we're the being that has a history, and our history is always pushing on us. We live right now in the present moment. We can only live in this present moment. And we have a monitor out, we have a radar out for the best possible future for ourselves, our loved ones, our circle, our sphere of care and concerns, for the entire species, for the entire world. So when you're making this commitment, even if you're saying, I'm opening myself up to the greater will, I'm opening myself up to spirit, that too is a commitment. And you want to go, how do I organize myself so I am that opening? You know, in somatics, we have very simple things like let your breath be deep and rhythmic. Can you drop back into yourself, feel your back, so you're not trying to reach forward or listen forward or be like this, but you can allow things to come to you. You can be receptive and allow things to come to you. That tightness that you feel around your belly, your heart center right there, is that you can either touch that with warmth, you can touch it with your hand, you can feel your shirt right there, your material, your blouse. And when feeling it, just say, I can soften into that. I can soften into that life and let something come in. So in any case, we can see that as humans, we have this capacity to set our sail towards some way, that we have some modicum, some degree of choice. We have an intent. We can intend things, and we can bring our attention on that at all times, however we are. So let's try that for a moment. You can do this sitting, but I'm going to ask if you can to stand. We'll do the rowing exercise. Funatori, it's called in the Japanese martial arts. So your feet are about, think of they're on a railroad track. They're about that distance apart, maybe about 3.5 feet apart. The left foot, it can be either foot. Let's all start with our left foot forward. The left foot forward is ahead of the right foot. And the right foot is kind of pointing out about, I don't know, 2 o'clock. 2 o'clock. And we're in our length. We're relaxing in our length. We feel connected along the horizontal plane. We feel balanced in our feet, at our knees, at our hips or shoulders. We can feel out into the rooms or the gardens that we're in. I can see some of you are in beautiful outdoor situations. And we can feel our back. And what I want you to do is I want to put your left hand on your belly center. And I want you to say this commitment to yourself, and say it this way: I am a commitment. That's different than I'm committed to, as if there's a commitment out there. You live the commitment. You embody this commitment. And if you're not sure, be generous with yourself, and you could say, I'm a commitment to finding this important commitment of purpose. Say that to yourself. Your hands are down. We're going to row, which means if you've seen people who row that stand up, grab the oars and move forward. Your hands are out here. Move your hips back, pull the oars back. Forward, back. Just do it at your own pace. And what I want you to think of is that you're rowing for your commitment. You can feel your feet are involved. You're moving from your center of gravity. Your shoulders are involved. As you move forward, you can feel your back. As you go back, you can feel your front side. And hold. And let's just stand for a minute. Just stand. Feel what's shifted or moving in your body. Remind yourself of the commitment you've just made. And feel it in your footprint. Feel it in what's moving in your body now. Feel it in the gaze of your eyes. Now put your right foot forward. Dropping into your belly center, and say your commitment again to yourself. I am a commitment to, you don't have to explain anything. It doesn't have to be lengthy. Something that galvanizes you to action. Move your hips forward. Take the oars. And back. And forward. And back. Forward. And back. And rowing. Rowing so that you will be able to fulfill on your commitment. Feel that intent, the commitment. in your feet. Feel it in your hips moving, the strength of your legs, power in your thighs, the light in your eyes. And hold. And stopping, however you would say in your language, that practice just served, and then say this purpose for yourself. And let's take a seat. It's nice to practice with you all. Thank you. Thank you. I'm going to read you a poem that I would say is probably relevant in every situation, might be even more relevant now. It set a certain tone for this conversation today, this inquiry. And this poem is called You Will Lose Everything. You Will Lose Everything. And it's by a man by the name of Jeff Foster. You Will Lose Everything by Jeff Foster, Foster. You will lose everything, your money, your power, your fame, your success, perhaps even your memories. Your looks will go, loved ones will die, your body will fall apart. Everything that seems permanent is impermanent. Everything that seems permanent is impermanent and will be smashed. Experience will gradually, or not so gradually, strip away everything that it can strip away. Waking up means facing this reality. Waking up means facing this reality with open eyes and no longer turning away. The poet is reminding us to really to look into impermanence, that everything is in transition, the transitory phenomena of this existence, of change. And he says, waking up, one of the elements of waking up means facing this reality with open eyes and no longer turning away. But right now we stand on sacred and holy ground. For that which will be lost has not yet been lost. And realizing this is the key to unspeakable joy. For right now, we stand on sacred and holy ground, for that which will be lost has not yet been lost, and realizing this is the key to unspeakable joy. Whoever or whatever is in your life right now has not yet been taken away from you. This might sound trivial, obvious, like nothing, but really it is the key to everything, the why and how and wherefore of existence. Impermanence has already rendered everything and everyone around you so deeply holy and significant and worthy of your heartbreaking gratitude. Loss has already transfigured your life into an altar. Impermanence has already rendered everything and everyone around you. That means right here, right now. Impermanence has already rendered everything. The plants, the grasses, the stones, the feathered ones, the winged ones, the crawlers, your children, your parents, your loved ones, your enemies. Impermanence has already rendered everything and around you so deeply holy and significant and worthy of your heartbreaking gratitude. Loss has already transfigured your life into an altar. So, I've been going on for a while here. Let me open this up to any questions that you may have or anything that you would like to just comment, not like you're teaching something, but something that's open for you.
Hi.
Hello.
Hi, my name is Pankaj from San Francisco.
Hi.
Hi, Dr. Strazi. I just wanted to say that, with this coronavirus, I'm in San Francisco and my dad was very sick for 4 months in India. And then because of the virus, I couldn't go to India. And then he passed away suddenly. And I'm just dealing with that. And I just wanted to put that out. So I appreciate the practice.
Thank you very much. Thank you. And thank you for your transparency. And may you recover and heal fully.
Thank you.
Hi, Richard. We had a question from, sorry, forgive me, Daniel Shankin. Daniel, do you want to repeat your question?
Oh, yeah, thank you. I just really like the distinction between I have a commitment and I am a commitment. And I was just wondering if you could flesh that out a little bit more.
Yeah, I'll be glad to. Yeah, I when I first recognized that, it was very powerful for me. One of the great models of that, Daniel, for me is Dr. Martin Luther King, when he gave his declaration of "I have a dream." He was speaking about his commitment in his declaration for a future. Is when you listen to that, you can see that he's not announcing something. He's not saying, "I have a good idea," or he's not proclaiming something. He's actually living that. He is that. And it just hit me with such an impact at that moment that the declaration, when it's lived in that particular way, it's you become that. And in becoming that, that is what speaks more loudly than almost anything else. That we can see that there's this other human being who actually lives this dream or lives this vision. And by doing that, it has touched me deeply and resourced me deeply, and that it allows this person to fulfill on that. So anyway, that's, Daniel, that's the piece about I have a commitment, I'm holding this good idea, it's all good, intellectual concept about it, and I can talk it through, and I am the commitment.
Thank you.
Yes.
Hi, Richard. This is Natalie.
Hi, Natalie.
Hi, I just wanted to share that I really, really enjoyed the rowing practice, and I had a little somatic opening just like back at the dojo during, and it just was really powerful. So thank you for creating that space.
Yeah. Yeah, the way that it touched you, you might consider this might be a good thing to do every day, huh?
Yeah, and it gave me some guidance around like what's next for me that was really valuable. So thank you so much for that.
Glad to hear.
Hi, Richard. It's Bobby.
Hi, Bobby.
Hi. How are you?
I feel tender and committed.
And I really appreciate that. And just wanted to say, me too. I just wanted to be saying that I I wonder every day what led me to Strozzi, and so appreciative of everything that it taught me, because I feel, although my practice is ongoing constantly, and I retain the same commitment that I had last time I was in the dojo about keeping my heart well and truly open to create spaces for others, it feels in these testing times like I went to the right place to actually have myself the right space for dealing with this now. And I just wanted to say wholeheartedly how appreciative I am of everything that you taught me.
I'm letting all that in. Thank you, Bobby. Thank you.
Richard, we have a question from Tamara Bowcut. Tamara, do you want to ask your question?
Hi, Richard. thinking about the distinction between the feeling of energy flowing when it finally gets flowing and you feel the streaming versus anxiety and what that feels like when it's in my system. And I'm having trouble distinguishing between them. My brain wants to name one, which I think is streaming anxiety rather than what it might be in a positive way. Is that what we're talking about when we're saying noticing when it starts and then choosing how we respond to it? And if that is the case, say something wonderful that helps me figure out how to do that right now.
I would start by saying this. We could say arguably that there's two places that humans live.
You finished? So very good.
Could you mute, please, there? Thank you. There's two places where humans live. We live in bodies and we live in narratives or stories. And that for some of us, when we're hit by a rush of energy or a rush of life and it moves through us, that we haven't built a certain kind of skill or practice to go, oh, this is life on the move. This is life on the move and it's moving through me. And I want to be present to that life and see what it's informing me of. Others of us who don't have that, haven't built that skill, and we have a history that, in a well-grounded history, in other words, I'm saying that because I deeply honor it, is that we feel that energy and we have a history that life is dangerous. And so as we feel it more intimately, what we hold is, what we refer to is danger is around. That's the notion of anxiety. Anxiety is, and when anxiety happens, we know that it's seen in the medical profession as the breath is high and it's rapid, shallow and rapid, that there's a low-grade contraction through the whole body, and we're in these kind of swirling thoughts. We're actually squeezing down life, and we're in these circular thoughts around, I'm not sure what's going to happen, I don't know, and all of that appears as a certain kind of threat. So really it is the distinction, making the distinction between I feel this energy, how do I interpret it? The other thing is this, we would hold in our work at Strozzi is that this life energy is intelligent. And basically it's a friend of ours and we need to make it a friend. Even though we have maybe earned the right from our past because of untoward relationships or predatorial relationships, is that when somebody comes towards us in a way, what gets triggered is that past history. And we feel that energy. So we start to make a difference between that younger self and the self that's now and going, this is just energy on the move. And it's here to help me become safer, more dignified, and in a deeper sense of belonging. And sometimes I'll characterize that too, is that all of a sudden we're in some kind of situation where we go, oh my God, I'm just kind of off center, I need some kind of help. And all of a sudden we're hit with this blast of energy. And it's kind of like we need help, so we call the cavalry. And they're riding up, and there's a lot of dust and chaos and horses and all that. And we go, oh, that makes me more nervous. And the energy goes, well, you called, here I am. So is that useful, Tammy?
Yes, Richard, that helps. Thank you.
You're welcome. Also, I'll just say in passing here at the very end of that piece is that there are also sensation-driven narratives that our history, being embodied and lives in us, is that certain ways that somebody might look at us or a certain gender is around, or race, or ethnicity, or a class situation, all of those things, or even if we get touched, that all of a sudden a story comes up. We're hit with a certain energy, and all of a sudden there's a narrative about the other. There's a narrative about what can happen, what can't happen, what's the threat, what's the danger, what's the possibility. So that the more that we train our attention, the more we train our attention through mindfulness meditation, which could be sitting or doing any kind of a movement practice, is that we're being able to observe that distinction.
Okay, Richard, we have a question from Molly. Reno,
Hi,
Molly.
Yeah.
Hi, Molly.
Richard. Hi, everybody. Richard, when I heard the topic, hold on just a minute. I've got two things going here. Well, anyways, when I heard the topic of your new book, see if I can get rid of that. I felt this rush of energy. I want to go with you on that journey. And I remembered the Somatics and Spirit book. And I wonder if you would consider doing a Zoom course to allow whoever feels called to accompany you on the journey with the mystery, being a somatic pilgrim, or however you phrased it. Take me with you, please.
Thank you for that encouragement, Molly. I had never thought of that. I will be honest and say it was actually produced a moment of anxiety. It was like, God, that will take away from my writing now, which I'm really ready to keep going. But I can put that aside. And just to say to everybody, Somatic Spirit wasn't a book, but it was a course that I did. And we did it over almost a year. And it was very deep and very wonderful. Part of it was a river trip. And yes, I will. I'm taking that. I'm putting that in my pocket, Molly. Thank you.
Thank you.
Richard, we have a question from Dennis. Dennis, would you like to ask your question?
Hi, Dennis.
There are so many purveyors of wisdom these days. Webinars, lectures, people making offers, giving advice. And I found initially that I was grasping for that, really reaching for it, seeking to pocket the wisdom without. And then I realized more about what I was doing and not accessing the wisdom within, and following the energy within to guide me what to do with these days and these weeks. So do you want to comment on the rush of wisdom or the rush of advice giving these days?
Set that context even more, Dennis. What is the question behind the question?
Finding myself and the wisdom within, and what's emergent in myself. So it's to look within rather than just simply seeking guidance and instruction from without.
Well, as you know, I'm a great proponent of that. When I began my formal meditation practice in 1969, essentially that's what my teacher said to me, look within. I had a grandmother who was really my first spiritual teacher, and she said, no, what you're looking for is inside you. And all of that was just seemed like some big dark cavern. But I've come to see that it's definitely a very, very deep position, view that we have people who want to help, and they're talking from their traditions and their experiences and their disciplines, and ultimately we can use that, but ultimately it's ours to take inside and digest. So have a good meal.
Thank you.
just say this here. Impermanence has already rendered everything and everyone around you, everything and everyone around you so deeply holy and significant and worthy of your heartbreaking gratitude already. Loss has already transfigured your life into an altar. So I'm going to turn this over to you, Salunas, Nicole. And we are building, we haven't yet built the somatic spirit offer yet, Molly. I can feel that seed growing. But Nicole, would you like to say something about an offer that we're building?
Absolutely. Thank you, Richard. So, hi, everyone. I'm Celeste Nicole. I'm with Strozy as the enrollment director. And Richard and Stacy K. Haynes will be offering a 1-hour workshop called Meeting the Moment on May 7th. I'm putting all of the information into the chat. It really will be a course around like how to handles life's chaos and transition. Also, I want to share that this is the last weekly Leadership Dojos that we will be doing. The next one will be in July, led by Altar Star. So for those who want to join us, please stay on our mailing list. You'll be able to find all of these recordings on an online link, which I've also put into the chat. And for those of you who have not registered and would like to join us for Cultivating Resilience, that course begins on May 12th at 5 o'clock Pacific time. That's also in a chat. So those are a number of the offerings that we have for our community. We hope that you find them useful and a way to continue to practice with us and build resilience. And I look forward to you joining us. Thanks, Richard.
Thank you all. Can we all unmute? Can you unmute everybody? And we'll all say so long. See you later.
So long.
See you later.
Thank you, Richard. Bye.
Richard, thank you.